Hey, good people, how you doing? Welcome to episode 22 of 254 Rugby, coming to you a day late. Shughuli za maisha zinafanya hivyo matime, but we believe in consistency, and that's why we're still, doing our best to try and bring it to you. My name is Michael Kwambo, and joining me is Walter Orangi. Walter, how you doing?
I'm great, Michael. Like you've said, shughuli za maisha caught us here and there, but we're here. We're consistent. At least we endeavor each week to become better. That's the whole idea, and it's always a pleasure being on this set once again.
Great. And as always, rugby action continuing both internationally and locally. And like we always do about this time, we'll start with the international headlines and just, take you to what is going on around the world of rugby. Let's look at the headlines, and they are coming up on our screens shortly. Here we go. Oh, this feels like a Zoom presentation and not really us guys recording the stuff. Yeah, so just looking at the headlines, and we can see Springboks legend Nas Botha is questioning South African team's commitment after their debacle in the Champions Cup. Remember, no South African team got to the knockouts of the Champions Cup this year, all of them failing to make the round of 16. And Nas Botha, who played for the Springboks between 1980 and 1992, regarded as one of the greatest fly halves for the Boks, but unfortunately didn't get to play upon South Africa's return from the international cold, says that winning the World Cup is the ultimate is the ultimate achievement. But what next for the South African teams in terms of importance? Because there was a time when they used to play in Super Rugby and they were quite competitive. Now it's become the Champions Cup and the URC, and he says that the South Africans are playing against the best in Europe and South Africa, and therefore they must do their best. And Walter, remember in last week's conversation when we were just talking about South Africa, I think the easier thing would be for them to get back to Super Rugby. But what do you think of those comments by Nas Botha?
From one of the rugby South Africa greats, and he's very categorical when he speaks about the fact that no team from South Africa has been able to proceed into the last 16 of the Champions Cup. And fresh from being crowned World Cup champions, a lot is expected of South African rugby teams. And remember, most of the players are either playing at home or they're playing abroad. So they found themselves in a challenge where they don't have the best talent locally, playing locally for their teams. However, there are teams now that are building, have the expectation and the baggage to try and match the results of the Springbok side. So I find that the South African teams are really riding against the tide here because remember the travel, time that is between South Africa and of course playing in Europe and it's not easy as compared to a team leaving France to go and play in Scotland, probably a team leaving England to go and play in France. So once again, they're fighting against the adverse conditions of playing in the URC and also playing in the Champions Cup. So it's quite interesting to see how the response would be. But they're punching really above the weights because Michael, the Champions Cup is really about the best of the best, a collection of the top stars. It's the cream de la cream of European rugby. So you'd really expect that the other teams who have brought in several Fijians, brought people from some of the English clubs, the likes of Jack Willis and company. You look at Toulouse, you look at the likes of the French contingency, the likes of Tuisova and company who are playing in France. So it's really a hard one for the South African teams, Michael. But it's one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, definitely. And then Nicolas Sanchez, we all know him, the Argentine, El Choro, as they used to call him. He's retired from rugby aged 36. He retires as Argentina's top point scorer at the Rugby World Cup. He also retires as Argentina's all time point scorer. And one key thing about Nicolas Sanchez Walter, we have to take you back to the year 2020. Remember when rugby was resuming in the wake of the COVID pandemic, and there was an abridged competition, the Tri Nations competition that featured Argentina, Australia, and New Zealand. There was a significant result that year, Argentina defeating New Zealand 25 points to 15, their first ever win over the All Blacks. And do you know who got all the points for the Argentines? It was Nicolas Sanchez. In addition, he is a two-time Rugby World Cup semi-finalist. Well, he hasn't played internationally since announcing his retirement from the international game in 2023 after they lost that playoff game to England. I know getting a club for him has been difficult in the past few months, but still, away from these setbacks at the close of his career, he has done a great service for club, for country, and for the game in general. And for Nicolas Sanchez, we wish him a happy retirement.
Yes, Nicolas Sanchez. I mean, the poster boy for Argentinian rugby for the last couple of years. He's had a good run in terms of his career. I'm just quite interested at the tail end of that tidbit that you just gave, where you're saying that he's struggling to get a team. I mean, for a man, his quality, there has to be a Japanese team somewhere. There has to be an American side looking at I mean, he's so good, and I don't think the fact that he's quit international rugby means that. He's not able, and we're hopeful that he can get a club soon. And the sunset years of his rugby career can progress. And yeah, and I mean he's done so well for his country. Like you said, two-time World Cup semi-finalist with Argentina. He's taken a few scalps here and there. He's also taken a few beatings here and there, and true gentleman of the game. And definitely should be retiring with his held and chest held high.
Yes, and still talking about Mata's retirement, Nigel Owens is long retired from officiating rugby. Well, he made rugby officiating interesting with his animated and yet no nonsense demeanor. He's calling for World Rugby to change the nonsense disciplinary process. He demands firmer action. So, what does he mean by this? Walter, you are a club official, have been a club official, and I think you know what happens, say, when a player is called in for a disciplinary hearing and you're told that there's ranges to the ban. Is it like there's an upper range, 6 to 8 weeks, and so on and so forth? So what Nigel Owens is suggesting is that you serve the time. Let's stop whatever negotiating. You serve the time for the crime, because it looks rather ridiculous in his eyes. I'm picking up from what he said. It looks rather ridiculous that you can be banned for 10 weeks, but because there's a lull somewhere, you'll be able to serve out that 10 weeks before you emerge into another serious competition. And so probably that would clamp down on the instances of indiscipline that we see away from let's talk away from like things like the dangerous tackles and all.
Michael, this is an interesting one. The judicial process is one that has a clear guideline in terms of. Well, I'm speaking in terms of local rugby. That is having experienced the process at Kenya Rugby Union. So it's ideally, I mean, one solid process where there is accusations made, and the process then takes its continuous, I mean, toll on the whole process. Um, Somebody is taken up for what they've done. A process is then administered. People will listen to the case. ideally the administration, especially the sports now fixtures committee, that is the local fixtures committee, would definitely look out to the issue. Now, well, there's always a way of cheating the process, Michael. I don't know if it happens elsewhere, but clearly he's signaling to that. There's always the appeal process that most probably slows down the process, and then also fact that there are games that maybe the club would have taken part in or wouldn't have taken part in, but then you're named in that match day squad, but then maybe somebody pulls you out again and they say you've served, you didn't play one there and a specific game somewhere. So ideally, yes, the repercussions of an offense should be met with the full force of the law, but it's a tough one here. It's a judicial process. Maybe Nijo has a specific case where he calls upon. Maybe he points that out and then you'd understand, but I wouldn't be saying that we scrap everything altogether. Just because the rules are not working in your favor at that point in time does not really mean that you ban down the whole process. So those are my sentiments, Mike.
Okay, Walter, as you speak, it's like some of your words are disappearing. So I'll ask you to hold steady. And then we're losing. Look at your face. look at me editing live. Your
You
head
hear
was
me?
kind of not. I can hear you, but I was saying, what do you call it? I was saying, okay, now we're good there. And we're not going to edit that. So, away from that, there's two 21-year-olds who've been named in the French team, and it stirred up a bit of controversy. This is Oscar Jegu and Hugo Auradu. These guys made the headlines last year in Argentina because during that tour they were accused of sexual misconduct, even though the charges were dropped. But they have been selected to the French Six Nations squad by head coach Fabien Galtier, and Galtier has taken responsibility. He says that him and his entire coaching staff are fully responsible for including these guys in the squad. Yeah, they faced a rape accusation in July last year while on tour in Argentina. Of course, the accusations have since been dropped, but in terms of publicity and everything, I think for Galti and for the French management, they are keeping the faith and confidence with their players.
Another one that seems to bring out headlines and it elicits emotions, Michael. I mean, this is a spectacular case of media and pressure that the media exerts on said cases. Especially now, you could see the reaction of the French and the Argentinians whenever there's just there's some bitterness, with you can also add the fact that they lost to the Argentinians in terms of the Football World Cup final. It's just been building up, and the animosity now then grows further when such allegations, much as the charges were dropped. I mean, they're holding them to account for such publicity. So, well, on one end, the publicity is not good, but on the other end, the charges were dropped and they're free, I guess, to play. So it's now down to the optics now for the union in terms of the French and the Argentinian. So, well, it's a case to look forward to and see how it unfolds in the coming weeks.
Absolutely. And then this past weekend, we did have the Perth round of the HSB Sevens World Series. Argentina, the team that we've just been talking about, hammering the host Australia 41-5 to win the men's competition. Australia edging New Zealand 28-26. Thrilling final that was. We had already done a review of the sevens with Kibui, but maybe just for you to hear your thoughts in a nutshell about the Perth Sevens, about Shuja's performance, and about Vancouver, which is coming up in about a month's time.
Yeah. So, Michael, I'll talk about path in three angles. I'll talk about Kenya Seven's performance in Australia. I'll also talk about the overall champions, that is Argentina, and of course, I'll talk about the women's final. So, I guess my sentiments on Kenya Sevens, the few games that I had a glimpse of, are we seem to have, sorry, I beg your pardon, we seem to have a game coming along. We managed at least to beat Uruguay. Remember, I told you last week that Uruguay was one thorn in the flesh, and you could see how the Uruguay side were playing against the likes of New Zealand and Fiji. They actually beat the two and proceeded to the cup quarters. So it's and that is the team we beat. So we were blowing hot and cold, and it's that bit of inconsistency that we'd always crave for, and so it's just an opportunity for the Kenya Seven side and management to assess the quality of our defensive and our attacking plays, and maybe see where they can be able to bridge the gaps. I'm interested to see how we fare on in Vancouver, just like you spoke about it, but it's coming up very soon, and hopefully we'll do a good preview. Hopefully when we have the team list, and maybe we have a hint on who's making the cut for that specific tour. So basically, a path for Kenya Sevens, I'd give it a 6 out of 10, maybe be over par, because we made it to the ninth place final for the Kenya Sevens team. But looking at that final, Michael, Argentina have been blowing hot and cold for the last few legs, but we seem to forget who they are, and they had a statement to make, playing a final that really looked like a pool game. Australia were out of sorts. Argentina were really clinical. Marcus Moneta came to the fore, and I mean, remember they've lost the likes of Rodrigo Isgro to Harlequins. They've not really had the best outings for the last couple of weeks, but for the last couple of events. But what a final that was! And to speak about the finals, we can't go down without speaking the women's final. It was a blow, counter blow after counter blow. It came down to just one simple miss in terms of a conversion rate. Out of performance, you could give the two sides. I mean, one for 100%, another you give them 95%, and say that 5% is just for that kicking class, for that kicking lesson that our kickers have to get, or we need to improve on. So you see, there's that clear structure of how the coaches will analyze that game and say, we did give our best. The best team won by this amount. They scored 4 tries. We scored 4 tries. They converted theirs. We didn't convert ours. And that's the margin. So next time we do better, we maybe improve where we need to, and life moves on. So quite an interesting final that was in Perth, and I really really enjoyed that final, Michael.
Great. Now, Six Nations is coming up this week. Action actually begins on Friday. And just some news that we continue to get as we are following up. Ireland have been hit by an injury setback to their veteran prop, Tad Furlong, suffering a calf injury. He's a key player in their set piece, and he will miss the opener. They haven't ruled him out of the entire competition. And then Super Rugby is also starting, I think, in 2 weeks' time on the 14th of why am I thinking about October? It's starting on the 14th of February. Jake Gordon has been named as the new captain of the Waratahs.
Yeah, quite unfortunate there for the Irish to lose Tad Furlong. He has been a cornerstone for them for the last longest years. But I mean, the Irish could do with getting new faces now into the Irish setup, and I'm quite sure Farrell sees this as an opportunity to introduce the future of Irish rugby. That's in terms of who he opts to go in terms of selection. So it's interesting to see how this goes. We're looking forward to watching the Six Nations, like you said. It starts on Friday. I'm trying to hopefully see if I can get a good place within the city where I can be able to watch some decent 15s rugby. And what a time now to catch the Six Nations as we watch some international rugby. Speaking of Super Rugby, I'm excited. Of course, I mean it's a week or two to the kickoff of Super Rugby, and just interesting to see the squads, the likes of Savea brothers who've moved to the Moana Pacific. Just looking at the changes, the struggles that the likes of Crusaders had last season. They've changed the captain. Now we have a captain in the name of David Havili. I have my sentiments about David Havili and that captaincy role. But at the end of the day, I guess this is the beauty of having such a platform like this podcast, Michael. And it would take time to invite friends out there to like this channel, and of course make sure they subscribe to more of this. We'll be talking more about Six Nations, your favorite sides. Michael, I'd also love to know who you're supporting for the Six Nations, so that I know where my beers will be coming from.
Okay, I'll put it this way. Looking at the Six Nations, because I think that was the first international competition that I started paying attention to when I was young, and my affinity was to England. And for the Six Nations, I find myself backing England. Yeah, I have always backed England throughout the years in the Six Nations, and that doesn't change this year. We'll be looking to see how they perform under the guidance of Maro Itoje, who was recently named as the captain.
Yeah, definitely. Maro has his job cut out for him. The English job is the English captaincy job is one for the media, but also one for the field. You really need to step up. Quite a good stock from the Saracens. I don't think he's going to struggle at captain. Your team England. I mean, they will always I mean struggle right now in Europe because I feel like the French and the Irish side are slightly, and even the Scottish side are slightly ahead of the English team. So quite a catching up to make in terms of the Six Nations. So anyway, those are the very many sentiments. I will be supporting the French side. I don't support them much, but this time round, I want to watch some really good Dupont rugby. I really enjoy how he gets to organize his set of forwards. He plays very well with the backs. He's either there for a turnover or he's breaking the line. He's scoring tries. Michael, it's the French this year, so get ready.
Okay, you say the French, and so it will be between the English and the French. Meanwhile, let's move over to Uganda, where action continued with match day 3 this past weekend. The defending champions Heathens registering the biggest score of the round. It was a high scoring weekend if you look at the scoreboard in Uganda, 83-6 against the Elgon Wolves. Then the Cobs also putting quite a number of points over the Eagles, 71-23. Mongas and Rhinos, that must have been an entertaining game. It ended 42-30 to the Rhinos, while the Ginger Hippos defeated the Warriors by 41 points to 15. Walukuba and the Buffaloes played to a 12-all draw, while the Pirates and Victoria Sharks, that game ended 28-13. That was match day 3 in Uganda. And, there's something that we had called which really didn't materialize. I think we had given it to the home teams. But as you can see, the Rhinos leaving Entebbe with victory, while the Buffaloes and Walukuba sharing the spoils. I'm trying to, what can I say, initiate you into Ugandan rugby. So maybe you can give me your thoughts just on round 3 of the Ugandan Premiership.
Listen, I'll be biased to the Ugandan Premier League. Where are the Kenyans? The Kenyans are playing at first. Let's go through. That's Victoria Sharks, if I'm not wrong, Michael.
Yes, we have Victoria Sharks, we have Hippos, and we have Heathens.
Okay, so
And I do
last
suspect also there's quite a number also in Elgon Wolves. I could be wrong.
yeah, because it's closer to the border here as compared to yeah. So I mean we missed that by just one result, Michael, and it was a draw. So we could give ourselves out of 100%, you give yourself 99%. So you give away that 1% for that draw. So I mean, you're doing very well.
Yeah, and it's also good because, like we said, we're keeping tabs on Ugandan rugby because Kenya and Uganda meet in that quarterfinal in the Rugby Africa Cup. This year, that tournament serves as the World Cup qualification tournament for Africa. And in news, also, Justin, the Simbas have started their preparations for that particular tournament. They are in Kakamega at the moment for an alignment camp. I'm sure we'll talk about that later. For now, let's just look at the standings and the upcoming fixtures in Uganda before we get into Kenya. So the standings from Uganda coming up just now, and here they are. It is the defending champions, Heathens, who are still on top of the log. They now have a 1 point lead over the Pirates. Ginger Hippos stay unbeaten in third place on 13 points, same as the Rhinos, while Cobs are fifth on 11 points. The Toyota Buffaloes are sixth on 7 points. Victoria Sharks in their debut season are in seventh place on 5 points. The Mongas from Entebbe are on 4 points in eighth place, while Lukuba Barbarians, coached by my friend Leon Lubambula, are in ninth place on 2 points. Eagles, Warriors, and Elgon Wolves completing the bottom three. The Eagles on 1 point, while Warriors, which happens to be a team coached by another good friend of mine, Gab Aredo, still haven't picked up a point. Neither have the Elgon Wolves. That is what the standings look like in Uganda after match day 3.
Seems like the Ugandan Premier League literally mirrors the Kenyan Premier League. You have a serious four, 5 teams up top, and then you have the rest of the teams. So the disparity is almost the same. So just that there's a tiny bit of quality in terms of Kenya rugby as compared to Uganda rugby. No pun intended, but I mean the pun. So yeah, sometimes it's good to take those blows, Michael. But anyway,
I'm sure,
I don't.
and I'm sure you'll always throw shade at the Ugandans.
At every opportunity, Mike. Pass that.
Great. And now, the action continues on the 1st of February with match day 4 in Uganda. The Pirates make the journey to the shores of Lake Victoria at Entebbe to play the Mongas. Eagles play Elgon Wolves. Warriors are up against Victoria Sharks. Rhinos against Heathens. Buffaloes against Cobs. Hippos against the Walukuba Barbarians. And in terms of calling the results for this coming weekend, 1st of February 2025, I'm giving Pirates a win at Mongas. Eagles versus Elgon Wolves. I think the Eagles are going to win that. The reason being that the Elgon Wolves have to make the trip from Mbale to Kampala to play that game. Warriors versus Victoria Sharks. Victoria Sharks, based on their recruitment, they will win that game. Rhinos versus Heathens. Rhinos, well, they are unbeaten, but their unbeaten record is going to come to a halt this weekend. The Heathens are going to claim the result. But remember, the Rhinos started the campaign with victory over Cobs. Well, now talking about Cobs, they play against the Buffaloes. I also give victory in that particular game. I'm predicting a win for the Cobs. They have shaken off that match day 1 loss and are bouncing back. Now the Ginger Derby between Hippos and Walukuba. I think based on form, that one will go to the Ginger Hippos. Walukuba, well, they will be good opposition, but just in terms of form, the Ginger Hippos. So looking at that, there'll be wins for the away teams, namely Pirates, Victoria Sharks, Heathens. Those are 3. So it's a spread because there'll be. I'm predicting 3 away wins and 3 home wins.
Well, I'd give my honest opinion about the Uganda Premier League. I mean, Uganda Cup. But once I'm well
It's now
conversant.
called it's now called the Uganda Premiership.
Yeah, the Uganda Premiership. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. I'd be very comfortable after week around 3 to give my clear predictions as to then I would be able to understand who's who. But I know Heathens are quite a strong side. I'd give them a win. Buffaloes versus Cobbs. This is a tight one. I'd go with Cobbs simply because I think I know the Cobbs. Victoria Sharks, I'll support Victoria Sharks because I already know Kenyans who are playing there, the likes of Maurice Osana, so I'd really be rooting for them to go and win this one. I'm not so sure if they would, but no offense in picking your homeboys to do something. Eagles and Elgin Wolves. Maybe I give this to the Eagles because they're playing at home, and then Pirates and Mongas simply because Pirates are a stronger side in terms of their form currently. I'd go with them. So, yeah. The last one is the Hippos versus Walukuba. Walukuba is not a bad side, Michael, but Hippos playing at home. However, like you said, it's a local derby, so should be a close one. But maybe the Hippos would be a stronger side this time around.
Now let's come into the rugby back home. And first of all, how did the Betika Bingo Fest go in Meru? And then how was it also for rugby on the road before we get into the KRU Championship here?
What a weekend we've had, Michael. We went to Meru for Betika Bingo Fest, Central Kenya edition, and I watched some really good rugby. We crowned Meru Rugby champions. The women's side was Kinale Forest, a very young side, a very good seven side. Michael, those girls were. I've not seen girls play rugby that fast and that good for a very long time. Short in stature and very sharp. They understand the game. They know how to defend. They know how to attack. I mean, it was really interesting, and I really enjoyed the Bingo Fest for this central edition. Rugby on the road on the other side, we're playing home versus uh, this team called Home Warriors. Yeah, we lost that game. That was a 24 full-time scoreline, so it has been a bag of mixed results. A loss nonetheless. Hoping to go back to the this coming week.
Okay. Yeah, so that's what happened. So you guys back to the drawing board. Now, KRU Championship action continued. There was that result in Kakamega, close result. Masinde Muliro edging Daystar Falcons 18 points to 13. Homeboys bouncing back with a 38-16 win over the Western Bulls. Catholic Monks ran close by the JKUAT Cougars, but winning that game 12 points to 8. The Zitek Oaks were 25-19 winners over Mombasa. Mean Machine claiming the 1 point win over the UAE Trojans, who we felt, remember in the previous episode, have not been competitive, have not shown up. Two Marines capped a successful day for all the home teams, beating the visiting USIU Marshals by 20 points to 14. That was match day 7 in the KRU Championship.
Sure thing, Michael. What a result we have on the screen. I mean, two Marines coming very strong against the USW Marshall. I did talk about this one. It looked like it was a competitive one, losing below 7 points. That means they get a losing bonus point. I'm quite sure that with a bit of sun on the beach is good. It's good for USIU. But now moving on, we have Machine who are playing the UAE Trojans. Yes, we did talk about the UAE Trojans, Michael. I remember very well we talked and we said they've not been competitive enough. And this game showed that they've been watching this show, Michael, and we were very critical about how much fight they have in them in terms of what they've been able to achieve in the Championship League this season. So not a bad result. A good, I mean, a loss. This one would be those losses that really pain. You rue those missed chances that you'd have taken 3 points. But quite a result there for Machine. They continue with their, winning run. They did have a small mini surge, mini resurgence, if I put it rightly. So not a bad result there for Mean Machine. Now Zitek Oaks playing versus Mombasa. Mombasa again traveling to Nairobi. Zitek playing at home. Um, Looks like a tough one, but also a loss below 6 points, below 7 points. Very important for Mombasa to secure that bonus point. Catholic Monks, Jacob Cougars, Varsity Affair, another very tight affair. You can see clearly 12-8 the result. Homeboy is the biggest uh, winner for the weekend in terms of points, bouncing back from that loss to Jacob the previous weekend, and actually scoring 38 points against 16 for the Bulls. Very happy that the Bulls could make the trip. You can see that their fortunes have changed. Credit to whoever is behind their resurgence and in terms of trying to honor fixtures. I did see a post that they did on social media talking about the support they've been receiving from the office of the governor, Kakamega County. So it's been quite important for them to honor fixtures. A tough one coming to Nairobi and hoping to get a result and going home empty-handed. But nonetheless, I guess Rugby won. Finally, Moose versus Daystar Falcons. We talked about this one, Michael. We talked about how hard it was going to be for Daystar to win in Kakamega. It has come to pass that Masinde Muliro are good for the money. 18-13 in favor of most, so that means they maintain their top of the table status. Daystar Falcons falling short. I think maybe Catholic Monks will be taking that advantage. Maybe I'm not so sure, but you'll be seeing that shortly as we talk about the league standings for the Championship League.
Yeah, you said we talk about the standings for the championship, and what I do know, Masinde Muliro are still on top of the log. It's coming on your screen shortly, but Masinde Muliro and the Catholic Monks still leading the KRU Championship standings after match day 7, and then we do have, I think it's the Catholic. Yeah, well, it's Daystar Falcons who are third, suffering their first loss of the season. And see the way we've broken it down, you can see the two teams in blue. Those are the teams guaranteed of home semifinals right now. The teams marked in green are the teams competing for the playoff slots. And at the bottom of the log, the teams in red, the teams in the relegation zone. Looking at Mean Machine, and remember what we said, that they could actually push for a playoff slot. And from the standings, you can see that they're now just a point off the playoff slots. While it's equally tight between these four, well, actually, between these 5 teams for the top positions, any one of these 5 teams at this point in time, Homeboys, Zitek Oaks, Daystar Falcons, Catholic Monks, and Masinde Muliro could, compete for those top 2 semi-final slots at this point in time. Remember, we still have 4 rounds of the regular season left to play.
Yes, your sentiments are rightly put, Michael. It's very close. It's 26, 27, 29, 32, 33. So it's still anyone's game here. Remember, a game is worth 5 points for those ones who are new to the game. That is if you get a bonus point victory. Should be a very good run towards the end of the season, Michael, in terms of regular season rugby. So let's keep an eye on the 4 who are actually outside the top 2 positions. The lead up top. The battle is really on everyone else to try and beat Catholic Monks and Masinde Muliro. So the challenge is to try and see if you can finish top. However, if you don't finish top, you're hoping to, get favorable draw in terms of quarters. Remember, Number 3 and 4 will also host the quarters at home. So that means you'd have an opportunity to play in front of your home fans. So the path becomes really harder for those ones who finish outside the playoff position. So it's important for them to finish there. I mean, bottom down on the standings, USIU Marshals -1. You have UAE Trojans who have 1 point, two Marines who have 4 points, and Mombasa who have 8. Seems like the relegation battle this season is really at the doorstep of USIU Marshals. I'm not sure how they're going to really fight this one off. The holiday mode is really going to start coming to an end very soon, or they'll be playing nationwide rugby. And I'm sure they don't mind playing nationwide rugby. If there was a lower league, Michael, I think they wouldn't mind to go lower than nationwide. So their comfortability is what really affects some of our thinking sometimes. But anyway, we'll have to keep an eye on what happens down below. I mean, the UAE Trojans have been awful this season, but for you to be below UAE Trojans, Michael, really, it says a lot about what's happening at your end.
Yeah, well, a lot of work cut out for the USIU Marshals, UAE Trojans, two Marines. I believe this is their first season in the top tier. In the second tier, they were promoted alongside the ZTEC Oaks, and they have been spirited. They've picked up 4 points. That's a win, and they've actually showed up for their games. So kudos to them. Mombasa, well, Mombasa doing their best, I must say. I would look at Mombasa more as a long term project more than anything, because previously in the past, about Mombasa, when they dominated the Enterprise Cup nearly 30 years ago, the club had a lot of oiled benefactors who are able to attract the best players and give them good terms in order to play. But right now it's a community effort, and you have to give credit to Chair Mundes Rogers Lai, the likes of Derek Wamalwa and Louis Olaka, who are working behind the scenes, just trying to get a program running in Mombasa. And for that, just the fact that there's a Mombasa team in the National League, I think is a good thing. And with time, we also need to ingrain rugby in the psyche of people at the coast. And it would be great to see Mombasa teams or coastal teams, featuring, and not only featuring, but competing for honors, not only in the second tier, but in the top tier as well. And let's now look at the fixtures for match day 8 in the KRU Championship. It continues to get closer to the playoffs, but we're heading into match day 8 in the KRU Championship. And these are some of the fixtures coming up on match day 8. Not some, but all the fixtures coming up on match day 8. Two Marines versus... Oops, I got the wrong fixtures. So we'll just pull that off. I know you had shared them with me. You do have them somewhere. I had not prepared them. And therefore, I'll just read them off my phone. This is it. Masinde Muliro play against two Marines in Kakamega. And then Daystar Falcons play Homeboys at Athi River. Western Bulls versus Catholic Monks in Kakamega. JK Watt Cougars versus ZTEC Oaks at Juja. Mombasa versus Mean Machine in Mombasa. UAE Trojans versus USIU in Eldoret. Let's start with Masinde Muliro versus Tum Marines. I think that's a straightforward result for Masinde Muliro. No disrespect to Tum Marines. Daystar Falcons versus Homeboys is wide open, Walter.
Yeah, Daystar Falcons versus Homeboys is wide open. The reason we say that is the fact that Daystar have been in better form as compared to Homeboys. I'm sure the loss last weekend away to Masinde Muliro would really have triggered the response this week, and a good game nonetheless, because Homeboys, who've also come from some loss and slumber before, have come to bounce back. So we have two teams who are bouncing back. Maybe one is slightly ahead because they had one extra week. But I mean, what a match it's going to be. And it's really hard to tip this one, but I would go with Daystar Falcons just because they're playing at
Western Bulls versus the Catholic Monks, that should be interesting because I think the journey to Kakamega will take a toll on the Monks. And then also, Western Bulls at home is a difficult proposition. And I'm basing this also on the fact that there isn't a sponsorship boost from the county government of Kakamega. And then also on match day, I think it was match day 6 in the KRU Championship, that game that ended 10-9 against Masinde Muliro. Of course, it was a derby, but it just shows you how difficult it is to play in Kakamega.
Yeah, it's quite difficult to play Western Bulls at home, and Western Bulls still count themselves as a top side. Remember, they know ways back and routes back to Kenya Cup. They play very well at home. They have a beautiful home ground. They're a solid rugby club in terms of culture. They do understand rugby, Michael. And Catholic Monks should be wary of the threat that the Western Bulls team possess. But I don't see a way out for Catholic Monks. They really have to go and play the rugby they played against Mombasa a few weeks ago. They need to go to Kakamega, take the fight to the forwards, silence the home crowd early, and maybe nick away with a result. But the more they let the Bulls keep alive with the game, and considering that they are slightly better, and in terms of ranking they're higher than the Bulls. Um, this is an opportunity for Bulls to take a scalp, Michael. I see a big upset this weekend in terms of this game.
Yeah, and imagine for that one, I couldn't agree with you more. I also see this one. The Bulls could actually nick it from the Catholic Monks. Now, JK Watt Cougars versus Zitek Oaks, equally a difficult game. It's also a derby of sorts. Because both teams are not too far off from each other in terms of proximity. But away from that, I think they play a similar kind of rugby, flowing, hard running rugby, nothing to do with the contacts. And that was evidenced by JQ at putting 44 past Homeboys, 44-31. The Zitek Oaks, coached by Ramsfield Matekwa, is a very decent coach. He's worked with players from age grade rugby. They have some sort of structure, but again, similar game to that of the JQ at Cougars. I do expect a high scoring fixture. This one is too close to call.
Yeah, too close to call, as you said, Michael. A tough one. On paper, this one looks like a bruising battle. I don't see this being an easy one. I just have a strange feeling that maybe simply because they play from within the close proximity, and fact that Juja itself, the fan base of Jaquad, you'd not really write something at home and say that they're the best in terms of the home support. So there'd be an intimidating atmosphere at Jaquad and all that. So I think I see because Zitek have been playing some decent rugby. They've really they have been consistent this season. Jaquad have blown hot and cold. Um, I think I'll give this one to Zitek Oxman.
Okay, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. I'll stick with the JQ at Cougars. Now, Mombasa versus Mean Machine. Open fixture. I wouldn't put it past Machine to scrape a win off of Mombasa. Both teams are evenly matched, but again, it could be another close result. And Machine obviously buoyed by the fact that they've won back-to-back matches, and sometimes that confidence when it comes, it doesn't matter the margin of victory. It's you knowing that you can win big, you can win small, and they will be motivated to go to Mombasa and edge the hosts.
Yeah, they will be motivated. Catholic monks showed a few weeks ago that you can go to Mombasa, dominate them, and live there with a result. So, A strong machine side. Traveling to Mombasa should be aware of Mombasa RFC playing at home. They should be ready for this game, but I'm sure they've really improved. Michael, you can tell that Min Machine are doing something in the right direction. However, playing away in Mombasa and the challenge, first and foremost, the travel challenge, making it by bus to Mombasa, the heat difference, the time zones in terms of when you're playing the game and where the sun is, and the humidity and all that. I wouldn't give it to the students to go and upset Mombasa, but it's going to be a tough one for them to go to Mombasa and get a victory.
Lastly, the last game that we're looking at, USIU away to the UAE Trojans in Eldoret. Could this be the game where UAE Trojans decide we're not losing? Because that's another difficult venue to play in. I've had stories of teams going to Eldoret and coming out without the result. I recall a few seasons back when Nondis were in the championship, and that's the one venue that they went to and did not collect a bonus point. And they said they just went and did what they had to do. And, we could see it again happening this weekend. The Trojans could just show up.
Uh, um, you're right, Michael. I've been on. I mean, what you're talking about playing at UOE, I've been experienced enough. I've taken my Kisii teams to UOE. They have a certain pole that is karibu na uwanja. There's mtitu ya stima tu fulani tu iko huko na hawezi itoa na nothing can be done about it. So on match days, they bring mattresses and cover it very well. And so it's a mental block. It's a shortened side of the pitch. The pitch is a nationwide pitch, much as they are playing in championship, nationwide in championship. Maybe the institutions are taking care of their pitches as we speak, but community clubs, I think very few community clubs are doing so well in terms of their pitches. I think maybe Masinde and any Bulls in championship would say Homeboys don't even have a ground of their own, and maybe Mombasa, but you'd expect a bit of a challenge. So bottom of the table clash, and this is it's the worst of the worst, really taking on each other. And I, I, I'm looking at USIU. I'm warning them, Michael. I'm telling them this is, if you can't beat your Trojans, you're going to nationwide.
The wild, wild west, the nationwide league. Now, I think we've looked at the fixtures, the standings in the KRU Championship. This, I must confess, has also been a difficult episode to produce. Like we said, Mambo za maisha, but we show up every day. There'll be good and bad performances. Ama namna gani. So, now, let's go to the Kenya Cup. And another weekend, it was a routine win for Kabras Sugar away to Nakuru. Nakuru rock bottom in the Kenya Cup League. KCB and Black Blood, it ended 22-33, KCB winning. Queens 28-42, they lost to the Menengai Oilers. Impala losing 24-20 to Nondis. Mwamba were 38 winners over the Pirates, while Strathmore Leos defeated Kisumu 48 points to 13. Now, starting with the result between Kabras and Nakuru, I mean, that one was expected. The result between KCB and Black Blood, 33-22. If I was KCB coaching staff, management, I would be worried. Do you know why, Walter? Conceding 22 points. Defense wins you matches. We could say a lot of things we could say a lot of things, but there's a number of fixtures coming up for KCB. They're yet to play Nondis, they're yet to play Queens, they're yet to play Oilers, and they're yet to play Ikabras. And actually, those are the games that are lined up. And those are games that will test you in terms of tactics and in terms of defense. And honestly, this Black Blood side was there for the taking. And 33-22, I would be as a KCB coach or whatever, I would be concerned about conceding those 22 points.
Yes, Michael. I hear you. I hear you, Michael. You're not talking as a pundit. You're talking as a former KCB. You know, there's the passion involved. You're wondering what would have gone wrong at at KU, and the result does not really show dominance. Yes. What a match it was, and I'm really happy for Kenyatta University's Black Blood because the banter lived up to what the performance was. The boys really pressed it for them to have scored 22 points versus KCB. No offense, I'd have expected KCB to win it, but as comfortable as one would have thought. But Blood did not make it as easy as you'd have thought on paper. So, well, I mean, Tichy and company should be happy. This should really help them now concentrate moving forward. Hopefully, the fixtures.
True. And yeah, sorry to just cut you short, but I also want to give credit to KU for giving KCB a hard time. And that's the kind of result that leaves the students from Blood walking with a spring in their step.
Yeah, definitely. This is what fuels their weeks, Michael. Walking into the school compound on a Monday afternoon or a Tuesday or a Monday morning, knowing that you scored against KCB and literally your fans and team and schoolmates were there to watch you do it. So it's something that we take for granted, but it's something that really means a lot for them. Anyway, 57 6 in favor of Cabras for Nakuru. This is a result. That was there for everyone to really call because Nakuru have really slumped. But I don't think this is one of those games that they'd have unmarked and said we can get a result to try and stay out of relegation. So no harm done. Hopefully they didn't pick up a lot of injuries. Maybe their next few games would offer them an opportunity to fight for survival. Queens Oilers 28-42. Wow, what a result, Michael. This game has been a thorn in the flesh for Oilers for the longest time because I remember for the last few years they've been on very good trajectories, but when they get to Queens, they get a beating. So Queens have always taken this game as serious as it comes. However, this year seems like the Oilers did a bit of their homework early enough, 42-28. Still not a bad result there for Queens, maybe because they scored 4 points, no, 4 tries, and got a bonus point in terms of the tries scored. But for the Oilers side, bonus point in the bag, 5 points away to Queens. One of the purported top sides. Should be an interesting week as Coach Gibu really looks to assess his team's performance against one of the top sides because remember we're getting into that window of the league where we see the big sides coming up against each other. So I think it was sort of an opportunity, a cameo appearance for the Oilers in one of the top games. No offense to the other sides that have played. I mean the Oilers before, but well, in terms of ranking, you could see that it was a game that Oilers should have taken seriously. Kudos to them, 42-28. Nondis were playing Impala at home, Ngongro Derby. I mean, a narrow victory there. Seems like Impala really fought for this one. Impala must have stood up against the challenge that was posed by Nondis. 24-20 in favor of Nondis. Well, that keeps Nondis in the hunt for that top four position. Having dispatched Queens the week before, they've gone ahead and beaten Impala. Well, it's something for them to have the dominance along Gong Road. So it's important that that was the result for them. Mwamba 38-8 South Coast Pirates. The biggest beneficiary of this match week is Mwamba RFC, who registered their first victory this season, a very important victory for Mark Mshila and company. Played a team they would have earmarked prior to the season starting that they could get points off them and try and keep themselves afloat. It's a pity that this is what Mwamba has been reduced to, but at the end of the day, you have to do your maths and get ready for the crunch time. So a good result, bonus point victory, 5 points in the bag, and they can proceed now with the rest of the season. And finally, Leo's 46-13 against Kisumu. Yes, this is another massive one. Statement of intent from the Strathmore Leos that they'll be going down fighting. They won't go down without a fight. Beating Kisumu. Kisumu previous week had come to Nairobi, got a a result that would have deceived them a bit here and there, but going to the cage and hoping to get a result and turning out to be one of those hard days in the office for Kisumu. So an interesting result there, but nonetheless unexpected result because I'd have expected Strathmore Leos to be a dominant side at home, and of course Mwamba RFC to be also a very dominant side at home.
Yeah, for Mwamba, when I looked at the lineup, I knew that it was ominous here because the likes of Joel Nzuga were back. There's quite a number of experienced players, and that actually worked the magic for them. And that result sees Mwamba get off the basement of the Kenya Cup. They move from the bottom of the table to 10th. South Coast Pirates dropping into the two relegation slots. Nakuru, champions of the Kenya Cup in 2013 and 2014, 11 years later, are at the bottom of the Kenya Cup. And like you said, the decline has been, well, it has happened. Let's not dwell on that, but rather dwell on the fact that they have their work cut out in their remaining fixtures. Kisumu are ninth on 6 points, same as the Strathmore Leos, who also climbed from the lower reaches of the league to eighth position. Impala are actually in seventh place on 10 points, and at this point in time, with a realistic chance of making the playoffs. Now, the teams in the playoff slots are KU Blackblood on 6th with 11 points. Whoa, but they are a whole 11 points behind Kenya Harlequin, who are on 22 points and in fifth place. Nondis are on 27 points for fourth place. Menengai Oilers are one of three teams on 30 points. The top three teams have won all their 6 outings to date with bonus point additions. That's the Kenya Cup after match day 6. And do you see the table changing at any particular point? Do you see anybody like making a push for the playoffs? Can Impala make life difficult for Blood and take that sixth and final slot? Because if you ask me, Walter, the top 5 slots are secured in terms of the playoffs.
Quite an interesting question, Michael. Yes, the league as it is, I can talk about 1 to 12 and the chances here and there, but let me start off with that battle at the bottom of the league. Nakuru South Coast Pirates headlining those teams dropping down to the Championship League. Now, that result that Mwamba had last weekend, propelling them from the basement, just like you said, an important 5-point victory over South Coast Pirates. Now, like you said, Nakuru have their job cut out for them. South Coast Pirates themselves have a job and a decent one because remember this weekend they are hosting Nakuru RFC in Diani, so an opportunity there for one of those games that Nakuru maybe had on paper that they could get something, but South Coast Pirates also battling for their lives, So it's that bottom of the league derby. So it's going to be a battle down there. Mwamba, looking forward to the next fixture. Hopefully, it's a softer fixture for them. We have now the likes of Kenyatta University. Now, let me talk about Kenyatta University just for a minute, Michael. There has been a slump in performance, and this started off. Immediately we broke off for the holidays in 2024. They've not been able to recover. They've not been able to steer the ship. I could see the boys struggle against Nondis a few weeks ago. They've lost to KCB. However, I guess it's time they either stepped up and secured that last playoff position, or the teams just slightly outside them would be able to get an opportunity. The likes of Impala would definitely pounce on an opportunity to go into that top six position. Remember, the point difference is really minimal. It's probably a point difference between the two. So quite a challenge there for the team that wants to stay in that playoff position. Yes, the top five are clearly decided because in terms of strength and in terms of quality, they are the best of what we have locally. So the change is going to be felt, especially in the last few games of the season. We started off when you pointed out that KCB should be talking about how they are able to concede 22 points and convince people that they are ready for the playoff battle between the top sides. So it's a question you've asked. It's a response you'd probably hope for in this coming week, because I'm pretty sure they'll be taking on a decent Kenya Harlequin side. The result at Black Blood, there is always a history with the KCB in terms of that fixture. There are former players of Black Blood who play for KCB. The banter was always there. It's always a hard fixture for KCB to go to Black Blood. So much as it's a challenge, yes, they could be asking questions about when it comes to shove, push comes to shove, what is the character defensively for KCB, and such questions will definitely emanate from a result like that on a Black Blood. So it's important that they show that they are ready for battle, and a team like Kenya Harlequins coming at home this coming weekend should be a good test. However much I know they will give a verdict and our prediction for next week. I know for a fact KCB should be a winner versus Kenya Harlequins at home. That is something I expect from them. However, it's this week they need to address such defensive issues that led them to conceding 22 points.
Okay, now we're looking at match day 7 coming up this weekend, the first weekend of February 2025, the business end. There is a tricky fixture, this one. Impala hosting the Strathmore Leos at the Impala Club. Kisumu playing against Mwamba. South Coast Pirates against Nakuru. Kabras Sugar versus Black Blood, KCB versus Queens, Oilers versus Nondis. I will start with Kabras Sugar versus Black Blood. Again, no disrespect to Black Blood, but Kabras are simply head and shoulders above everybody else. Already look at their points differential. They're on plus 363. KCB, I think, are on plus 291. Already that is like 72 points in terms of an advantage that they have in scoring, and it means they're averaging 60 points a game, and I do see them putting up a big score against the students from Kenyatta University. Impala versus the Strathmore Leos. Wow, this game is open because Impala will be encouraged by their performance against Nondis when they lost 24-20. They just seem to be getting into their stride in the Kenya Cup and certainly believing that they can make a play for that 6th slot. The Strathmore Leos, on the other hand, picking up their first win of the season against Kisumu, and they will go to Impala with confidence, looking to keep it together and have the advantage. And incidentally, that is also a match between a current and former Strathmore coach, because Louis Kisia coached the Strathmore Leos before going to Impala. I have played for Impala in the past, and therefore I am inclined to go with Impala for the result. Kisumu versus Mwamba. Wow, another game that is close to my heart. And then also it's a meeting of two people who played at the same time for KCB, Mark Mshila and Howard Okwemba. And this one is looking as though it's close. It's close. Mwamba have a bounce in their step from their first win of the season. Kisumu are difficult to play at home and to beat at home. Again, I leave that one as too close to call. Now, South Coast Pirates versus Nakuru. Whoever thought that we would be having a debate about this game? Yeah, no disrespect to the South Coast Pirates, but for Nakuru, 6 games played, 6 games lost, not even one single bonus point collected this season. They have to do something and they have to do it fast because, Walter, they're running out of games to collect points, and that has to start now. Remember, if they lose and if they're relegated, it will end a stay in the Kenya Cup that has lasted since 2007 when they were promoted after, again, a brief stint in the Eric Shali Shield League. So for Nakuru, kazi kwao. For the South Coast Pirates, they have nothing to lose, and if they win, then they're happy. And I wouldn't be surprised if the South Coast Pirates pull up the result. For Nakuru, this is a do or die clash for them, Walter. KCB Rugby versus Queens. Queens are coming off the back of 2 defeats and are wounded. KCB, on the other hand, like I said, questions about defense. They now must give a statement and show that, we are still in this race, and they have to put a statement victory against Kenya Harlequin. A victory that gives them confidence into the remaining 3 fixtures, which are against Nondis, Oilers, and Cabras. Oilers versus Nondis in Nakuru. I think the Oilers will win that game. I'm certain about that.
Yes, Michael. Well, my sentiments would be Impala versus Strathmore. A tough one for Strathmore Leos, a tough one for Impala. Very close fixture, this one. But Impala should be good for the money here, playing in front of the fans, playing at home. Very important fixture. Kisumu Mwamba, Michael, you talked about this one and said it's going to be a hard one. Yes, it's going to be a hard one on paper, but there is no way Mwamba are getting points in Kisumu. So this one is a Kisumu victory. South Coast Pirates versus Nakuru. Nakuru have to really show that they're doing something. The results and their league position does a lot of injustice to the name Nakuru. However, South Coast Pirates would be eyeing a scalp here in the name of Nakuru IFC. And I foresee an opportunity here where, for some strange reason, South Coast might come on top of this one if Nakuru don't play as early as possible and silence the home crowd and build no expectations for the South Coast Pirates. There should be a result in the bag for them. But the job is really hard out there. It's cut out for them. And I foresee South Coast being very stubborn. They might even get a result in this one. Kabra Sugar versus Kenyatta University Black Blood is a straightforward fixture, and this one is a result in favor of the Sugarmen. There is a Kenya 15's alignment a camp in Kakamega. That means most of their players, because there's no fixture really, will be in training with the national team and then maybe get a release to play club activity, or maybe they would probably even go with their second string side. Remember, the Eric Shally Shield hasn't been as strong as it should be. So, I mean, it's an opportunity for them to give more game time to more of their team because Black Blood would be a team that they'd say, I mean, playing at home, they'll beat them with a decent squad because their squad really top number 1 to 40. You wouldn't call anyone as a second team player or a first team player. That's that squad quality and depth that Cabra Sugar have. So that one is a good win for Cabras. KCB versus Queens, Michael. A tough one here. You've said it's an opportunity for KCB to respond defensively. I think I have watched a few clips of compiled 15s rugby for KCB this season, and I've even also had an opportunity to talk to one of the videographers who takes videos from XRX Sports, that is David Mango. And we had a very interesting conversation over the weekend as we were in Meru for the Betika Bingo Fest. And many of the things that we talked about is where we are in terms of KCB rugby and their chances of playing the finals and maybe even winning Kenya Cup. And he told me that KCB are so good. They move the ball so fast, Michael. They're trying so many things. The ball is really moving so fast. Oliver is also trying to think around the squad and who's who and who should be playing where. So there's quite a change. But he also tells me that if KCB nullify the knock-ons they have in their team, they are really going to be a problem to very many sides. So from that sentiment, all he's trying to say is they need to cut down on their errors. The error count for KCB is something they need to look at, and you can from the sentiments, the ball is moving faster now. The forwards and backs are mobile, and with that, they now need to increase their ability to catch the balls because you try and tinker with the squad plays, increase the speed, but the development in terms of the skill level then lets you down. So you're doing something right, but you're also losing on the other end. So it's something about it's a balance that KCB need to get as they head now into the serious end of the season. But I'd give that one to KCB because they'll be playing at home. Queens. Looks like it's going to be another loss for them. And exactly that's what we are in terms of Kenya Cup right now. Remember, they lost to Nondes. They lost to Oilers. Those are top sides. Those are squads ranked higher than them. They're now going to play KCB, and once again, I'm tipping KCB to beat them. So that really tells you where they are. That should also tell them because it's natural selection. It's nobody placing you somewhere, so you wouldn't take offense. It's for you to win your games. That's why I keep on saying kila mtu ashinde against Zake Michael. Then finally, Oilers versus Nondes. Another top side here in the name of Nondes making their way to Nakuru. They do know how hard it is to play at the refinery. Oilers this season are slightly different as compared to last season. Case in point, they went to Kenya Harlequins this last week and got a result, something they've not done for a very long time. So they seem to be in a very good space at this point in time. Nondes, on the other hand, riding high, and as of course last year semi-finalists, they do understand that this is a direct competitor for any position up top, either semis, challenge, or maybe even the quarterfinals. So it's important that they really go out hard, and it should be a very good game. And I'm hoping that the fans would be entertained for this fixture.
Super. Yeah. So that's it. That has been 254 Rugby episode 22. We've looked at international headlines, the Ugandan League, and the Kenyan competitions. Yeah, that's about it. Just like to call upon you to like, share, and subscribe. We are doing good in terms of numbers, but also motivated by you in terms of the comments and the feedback that you give us. And in that line, if you've got anything that you'd like to share with us, you can share with us on this number, WhatsApp, plus 254 72757 Just share whatever it is you'd like to see on the show in terms of your feedback and all. Yeah, that's about it. Signing off. My name is Michael Kwambo.
Yep. It has been an interesting episode. Like Michael said, we keep doing this. We are here for you. We'll get better, of course. We'll get more. Content out there because I don't think we've barely scratched the surface of the content production in terms of our local rugby. So we will keep on doing this. We're very consistent. Before I drop out, Michael, I'd like to give a special shout out to the Kenyan fans in Perth. I was seeing the pictures, I was seeing the images coming through from Perth, and that was a massive turnout, and pretty sure that the boys felt really good playing in front of quite a big number of Kenyans, and credit to everyone who made it to Perth and supported the Kenya Sevens team. The job is now cut out for the Vancouver lot. Hopefully, they can be able to match or even probably beat that. And that brings me to the last bit of conversation. Kenya Sevens is a big product, Michael. It's important for us to note the value of the product that we have, and I think we take it for granted when we see this happening out there. I think they are more loved out there as compared to how they're loved locally. So I'd implore our local fans to really start having a better attitude in terms of how they attend games where Kenya Sevens is playing, especially the likes of Safari Sevens and all. But the challenge has been laid out to the public. We're doing so badly locally in terms of how we're supporting our teams, and we really need to improve. And thank you so much, Diaspora, for setting the pace and making sure that we get challenged locally and see how best we can be able to enjoy the product that is Kenya Sevens. It's celebrated out there, but not as much as it should be locally, and that's really something we need to look at. Thank you, guys.
Great.
My name is.
Yeah, thank you, Walter. And yeah, we'll catch you on the next episode of 254 Rugby. Asanteni sana.
Cheers, guys.